In year 4, we're going to start formal methods of division. So this is how we would begin. We would have our division statement like this, and we'd now be moving on to place value counters. You could still use base 10. And what we're doing is we're dividing this number, which we've got, which is 48, into groups of 4. And that's why the language is really important. We're not sharing anymore. We're dividing into groups of 4. So this is how I'd show that. I've got 4 tens, so I can make a group of 4. So there they are. I've got one group there, and I can divide this into 2 groups. So I've got one group of 4 tens, and I've got 2 groups of 1s. So you'd be doing lots of practical work around sharing and grouping your place value counters like that before you did any formal methods. And then the next step would be to introduce the written method. So you'd use this bracket, and you might have a number like 367 divided by 3. And I would always be putting place value headings like that so that the children are clear. Let's make that number. So I've got 300s. I've got 6 tens. I tend to like to put my numbers in numicon arrays. And I've got 7 ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these. Now when I'm dividing, I will start with my largest value, and they have to remember that. It doesn't work if you start dividing these. So I'm going to put that into a group of 3. Well, it just so happens that I have got one group of 3, and I can record that way, and I can put a circle around them if that helps. And then how many groups of 3 can I make out of my tens? Well, there's 6 of them. So I can make 2 groups of 3, and I put my answer up there. So 2 groups of 3 makes 6 tens. And how many groups of 3 can I make out of 7 ones? I can make 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3 with 1 left over. So I can make 2 groups of 3, and I can put 1 like that. So that's how I'd be modelling it. And you need to do an awful lot of work on that in year 4. As we move into year 5, you perhaps make your numbers, the challenge comes because of the numbers that you're using, and that you need to start exchanging your higher value numbers. So as an example, if we do 138 divided by 6, or put it into groups of 6. So I'm going to make 130, 2, 4, 6, 8. So I'm going to make my number, and I want to see if I can put these into groups of 6. So I can't have a group of 600s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exchange that 100 for 10 tens and put them in the tens column. And the way I demonstrate that is I'm going to cross that off and put 10 tens over there like we did when we were adding. So 2, if I put that away for now, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's my exchange, and that's the group of 3 that I had in there to start with. And I've got to make groups of 6. So there's 1 group of 6 and 2 groups of 6 with 1 10 left over. So the way I would demonstrate that is that I have 2 groups of 6 and 1 10 left over, and what I now need to do is exchange that for 1s and put it into my 1s column. So I'm going to exchange that, and in its place I'm going to add 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I've got all these now to put into groups of 6. So let's see how many groups of 6 I can make. 1 group of 6, 2 groups of 6, exactly 3 groups of 6. So I know that out of that number I started with, 138, I can make 23 groups of 6. So that requires a certain understanding of or a really strong understanding of mathematics so far. It's not the easiest concept for children to get their head around, and it does need a lot of practice. Unfortunately, when you get to dividing by 2 digits, which we call a long division, it just becomes something that they have to learn. The only way that they can really have this explained to them is if you use multiplication. So I will show you how that works. And this is why teachers were not overly happy. I certainly wasn't when the new calculation policy came in 2015, because it's not as intuitive. Let me just show you actually, before we do that, how you would record once you've taken away the practical equipment. So here's an example. 196 divided by 6. So I'm looking for groups of 6. Make sure you've got the place value headings as always. So I've got 100. Can I share it into groups of 6? No, I can't. So I'm going to take that out of there and exchange it for 10 tens, put it into there. So because they've done all this work, they should be able to imagine that. How many groups of 6 can I get out of 19? I know my tables. So I know that I can get 3 groups of 6, which is 18, which leaves me with 1 10 left over. Can't divide that into any more groups. So I'm going to exchange that for ones. How many groups of 6 can I get out of 16? The answer is 2, which is 12. So I'm going to have 4 left over. Now at this point, you have to decide what you're going to do with that 4. And you need to teach the children that you can turn that into a fraction out of the group that you're trying to make. So that ends up being 4 parts out of 6 that are left. And if you simplify that fraction, you've got 2/3. So it's knowing what you want to do with that remainder at the end. So that would be the shortened form of division by a single digit. And that's just called short division. It's not called the bus stop method. It's called short division. So finally, in year 6, you would be moving to long division methods. And teachers are really struggling to agree how best to explain this to children, because it doesn't make great sense compared to the methods that they've been taught. It's more of a method that's learnt by rote, but you can do it in this way. So if you have a number like 972 divide by 36, what we would teach the children to do is to find multiples of 36 and use that as a guide. So use what you know. So if I know that 336 multiplied by 10, sorry, I'm going to write it the other way around just to make it easier. 10 lots of 36 is 360. I always put a ring around the number of groups so we don't get confused. Then I also know that 20 lots of 36 is going to be double that. So double 300 is 600 and double 60 is 120. So that's 720. So I'm looking at that number. So basically I'm doing estimates, and they should be doing estimates all the time, which I've not modelled today. If I add 360 to 720, it's going to go too high. So I know that, for instance, if I know that, I know that 5 lots of 36 is going to be half of that. So half of 360 is 180. And this is where great mental arithmetic comes in. So 720 plus 180 is going to be 900. So I know that I'm getting there. So if I start by saying, okay, I know that 25 lots of 36 is going to be 900, then I can start there. So I know 25 lots of 36 is going to be 900. And that leaves me with 72. How many lots of 36 is going to be into 72? Again, I'm using my mental arithmetic. So I know that double 30, 60, double 6 is 12, so it's exactly 2 more lots. So altogether, it's going to be, I shouldn't have written that there at the beginning, it's going to be 27. Now, this is really the only way that makes sense of explaining long division, and we would have called this the chunking method. it needs a lot of practice and it needs a lot of understanding.